Hello and welcome to the programme this Monday, the 27th of October. The Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, is facing calls from senior backbenchers in Fianna Fáil for a discussion about the future of his leadership. It comes on the back of Catherine Connolly's landslide victory in the Irish presidential election at the weekend. She's to become the 10th President of Ireland after defeating Fine Gael's Heather Humphreys. The Fianna Fáil candidate, former Dublin Gaelic football manager Jim Gavin, had withdrawn his bid for the Áras earlier in the race. Well, let's get more from our political editor, Enda McClafferty, who's in Dublin this evening. Enda.
Well, Lindsay, in a little over a fortnight's time, Catherine Connolly will arrive here at Áras an Uachtaráin to take up residence, replacing Michael D. Higgins as the next Irish president after that emphatic victory over the course of the weekend. But as you say, that victory has come at a high cost for the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, who's been feeling the heat over the past number of days from very angry backbenchers over the way that his party's challenge effectively fizzled out. In a moment, we'll assess what it could mean for his leadership long term. But first of all, Kevin Sharkey has been reflecting on the weekend results.
A president in waiting with a pledge to the Irish public.
I will be a president who listens and who reflects and who speaks when it's necessary, and a voice for peace, a voice that builds on our policy of neutrality, a voice that articulates the existential threat posed by climate change.
Alongside the President-elect in her moment of triumph, family. A fluent Irish speaker from Galway, Catherine Connolly is also a barrister who became the first woman to be elected as Leas Ceann Comhairle of the Dáil, or Deputy Speaker. In Dublin over the bank holiday weekend here, support for the annual marathon and for the incoming First Citizen.
We'll miss Michael D. Higgins, but she's the best candidate, absolutely.
I think the best candidate won the race, to be honest.
I think she'll do really well, looking after the interests of the country.
Catherine Connolly's success has been savoured by her political supporters, but for the two main government parties, discomfort and questions. Fine Gael lost the election and Fianna Fáil lost its candidate during the campaign. And for Fianna Fáil, that's a problem. For party members all around the country and for elected members in the Dáil, there are dissenting voices and pushback.
There's a huge amount of affection and respect for Micheál Martin over his 14 years as leader. However, the results yesterday clearly are a reflection on what, in my view, was a significant error of judgment in the run-up to and during the campaign, and they clearly have consequences.
He's brought the party back, literally from the brink, back to be the largest party in government. Micheál has actually been an exceptional leader.
Catherine Connolly's new role will require new skills to add to those she has already mastered. Kevin Sharkey, BBC Newsline in Dublin.
Well, in a moment we'll assess what lies in store now for Micheál Martin, the Fianna Fáil leader, after the weekend's results, with our Dublin correspondent Gabby Agadavisketska. But first of all, let's talk to Sinn Féin TD Ona Bryn about that performance. Could she have pulled it off without you, do you think?
Well, obviously, as the largest opposition party and a party with a very considerable organisation on the ground, we contributed enormously. But I have to say, in the first instance, the victory is Catherine's. It was Catherine's name on the ballot, and she's the person who people voted for. There was a very broad coalition of progressive opposition parties, ourselves included. And for sure, we brought very considerable organisational experience, feet on the street, as well as a sizable Sinn Féin vote.
So what will Republicans be expecting now from the President who they've put in the Áras an Uachtaráin?
I think we'll be expecting her to do exactly what she said in her acceptance speech in Dublin Castle, that she wants to be a president for all. She wants to listen, she wants to learn. And anybody who knows Catherine knows she's thoughtful, she's considered, she has very strong views, and so she should do. But I think she's going to be a president who's really going to reach out in the spirit of the last three presidents.
It is a powerless position, really, isn't it, though? It's pretty just symbolic.
I think viewers who saw what Mary Robinson did in terms of the peace process, what Mary McAleese brought to the peace process, Unionists and an All-Ireland dialogue, what Michael D. Higgins has brought to issues around neutrality, as well as our housing crisis, knows that, of course, it's the government of the day who addresses the problems, but the President has an important role in framing the national conversation, and Catherine Connolly has made it clear she's going to be a President who frames that national conversation about Irish unity.
Are you worried about her Republican credentials? Because in interviews in the past she's talked about Northern Ireland belonging to England. She's also talked about Northern Irish citizens. Not your kind of language, is it?
Well, of course, she's not a member of Sinn Féin, and she's not the kind of Republican that I am, but she's somebody who throughout the course of this campaign spoke about her desire to see United Ireland and play a positive role in that conversation around Irish unity, particularly given we could be on the countdown to the referendum. But also she has core values of inclusion, of social justice, of equality. She has a grá from Gaeilge, as well as a strong commitment to neutrality, to peace, and opposition to genocide in Gaza. So they're all ideas perfectly compatible with ours, but I also think they're views which the majority of the voters clearly voted for on Friday.
Of course, let's talk about the wider campaign though, because we do know Heather Humphreys was subjected to sectarian abuse because of her family's links to the Orange Order. Already unionist politicians talking about a cold place for Protestants as evidence, they would say, in the campaign. Is that not a fair mark?
Well, first of all, the abuse was utterly unacceptable. I was probably the first politician to comment after the Mail on Sunday ran what I thought was a terribly sensational story. Heather Humphreys is a proud Ulster Presbyterian. She's also somebody, by the way, who is equally committed to United Ireland. But there can be no place for sectarianism, not just in our electoral campaigns, but again, as we move to that referendum on Irish unity, we need people to understand that we have to find ways to respect each other's traditions and culture. And therefore, while
But did it expose a level of intolerance, do you think, that people out there might not have thought was evident?
I have to say, and again, while I utterly reject the sectarianism as it was expressed, it was on the absolute fringes of the campaign. Wrong, should not have happened. But I actually think if you listen to what Catherine Connolly has said, she's going to make Áras an Uachtaráin a very warm house for all people, the length and breadth of Ireland, north and south, whether Protestant, Unionist, Loyalist, Nationalist, Republican or other. And I think that's the way it should be.
Less than 1 in 2 people voted in this election, and of those that did, 1 in 5 voted in a way that their vote wasn't going to count. A pretty farcical situation.
Well, first of all, Catherine Connolly has got the largest first preference vote in any presidential election in the history of the state.
It was only a 2-horse race, though.
Sure, but she got the largest actual number of votes in any presidential election in the history of the state, the largest percentage share. But you're absolutely right. Yeah. The very, very significant number of spoil votes shows that there's a job of work to do, particularly for those people who are angry and frustrated, and we'll be working very, very hard to engage with those people, as will Catherine Connolly. But ultimately, that's on the government, not on Catherine.
Let me bring in Gabia now. Just how much trouble is Micheál Martin in?
Well, certainly there is a lot of anger now amongst those Fianna Fáil backbenchers, and that anger has been simmering and bubbling for quite some time. Of course, the elephant in the room in this election was Jim Gavin, who was on the ballot, but he withdrew. People could still vote for him. Now, the rebel group of TDs within Fianna Fáil, they are now voicing their concerns, and they're saying there's a discussion that needs to happen about the future of the leadership. The concern for Micheál Martin is not that rebellious group of TDs, but it's the TDs are coming in from the outside. There is going to be a review that will take place of the campaign ran by Fianna Fáil in this election. So they're saying in the next 2 weeks, once that review is over, that discussion about the leadership will take place then.
And just briefly, Michael D. Higgins spent last night in hospital. What's the latest?
Yes, so he still remains in hospital. He is in St James's, where he was taken last night. There's an infection that the Áras said in a statement. That's the issue that he's been hospitalised for. He's on a course of antibiotics, and he's going to remain in hospital for that course of antibiotics.
Okay, Gabia, thank you very much indeed for your time, and thank you as well, Owen O'Brien from Sinn Féin. So there you have it. Lindsay, back to you in the studio.
And thank you.